Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to another segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. We recite from Asa Mahalla Tija, composition of the third Nanak, Guru Amar Das. Bhagat Rata jan Sahaj Subhai, Gur ke beh sache sach samaye, bin gur pure bhagat na hoye, मनमुख रुन्ने अपनी पत खोए मेरे मन हर जप सदा ध्याए सदा आनंद होवे दिन राती जो इच्छा सोई फल पाए रहाओ गुर पूरे ते पूरा पाए हृदय शब्द सच नाम वसाए अंतर निर्मल अमृत सरनाए सदा सूचे साच समाए हर प्रभ वेखै सदा हजूर गुर प्रसाद रहा भरपूर जहाँ जाओ तह वेखा सोए गुर बिन दाता अवर न कोय गुर सागर पूरा भंडार उत्तम रतन जबाहर अपार गुर प्रसादी देवनहार नानक बख्शे बख्शनहार. So we have seen that the theme running through the adjacent sabads that we have considered is the manmukh mind, the mind that is acting out of the fulcrum of the ego, the mind that lacks discernment, vivek buddhi. Not only that, but as we noted earlier, like a stone, it remains unreceptive to gurmat. So, manmukh. Here, the Guru says, eventually, the manmukh relents and realizes that without the perfection of Guru wisdom, bin Guru Pure, bhakti, devotional love, is impossible. Bhagat na hoye. In other words, the goal cannot be achieved. What one is looking for cannot be found. And that the manmukh loses face, self-respect. In other words, the manmukh mind lives to regret it. Manmukh runne apani pat khoye. Now, love of good wisdom, the Guru says, is a necessary condition. It's the precondition in order to dissolve the ego haume into perfected awareness of the self. Because ego haume is conditioned awareness, which has to be transformed into pure consciousness, awareness of the self, which is essentially an essence. So when the servant being, when the Jan becomes immersed in devotion, Bhagat Rata Jan, then Sahaj, here meaning the self, becomes second nature. So the manmukh has to first realize that it's on the wrong path. It has to relent. It has to understand that it has to follow the way of gurmat, because that is the only way that will lead the mind or lead it to its destiny, which is the self. And that turn has to happen. So the Guru continues to admonish the mind. In the Rahao, the Guru instructs the mind, meaning us. Mere man, he says, har jap sada aaye. Mere man har jap sada dhyaye. Live in self-awareness. Har jap. Jap, of course, has many connotations. When we look at it from a particular perspective, jap could mean recitation of Gurbani. It could mean the recitation of a particular word, if you will. But jap here comes with sada tyai. Tyai is to pay attention. So there is this hint that jap here is also pointing to a reflection and attention. So it is a holistic approach. You recite, you create a certain vibration inside by reciting Bani. You read Bani aloud. You reflect on what you have been reading. So it is a holistic process. So the Guru says, Mere man har jap sada tyai. Become engaged in this process. Become engaged in this process. And this will lead you to where you need to go. So the Guru says to live in self-awareness, always be mindful of the self within. Sadatyai. So when you recite Gurbani aloud, for instance, and reflect on Gurbani, Tyai, then gradually the mind becomes aware of the self, and then you begin to identify with the self. So that's the way the process works. And the Guru says, serving the Guru, the enlightener, the one who has this perfected knowledge, brings fruition to our deepest aspirations. Josh hai so phal paaye. Because that is really our deepest aspiration, whether we know it or not. To discover ourselves, the heart self within, is indeed our deepest aspiration. And we are all doing it wittingly or unwittingly. And now here the Guru says, look, to discover the perfect, complete self, one requires the insight or knowledge of a perfected one. Makes sense? Gur pure te pura pai. So the knowledge that you require to get to a certain understanding has to be commensurate. And so what is commensurate here is another perfected being, one who has walked the path, one who is there, so to speak. And so we engage with the textual testimony of such a Guru. Hirday sabad such naam vasaye. So through this process, when you engage with Gurbani, the Guru is saying, Hirday sabad. Sabad is a collection of words, if you will, the message, the testimony of the Gur, enlightener. So we are being instructed that Hirday sabad such naam vasaye. Take to heart the testimony that you hear, that you read about, that you reflect on, and through that, cultivate self-knowledge. In fact, it happens. And then, Antarandarambalayamrita Saranai, bathe in the purifying pool of immortality within. So the Guru is suggesting that within you is a pool of immortality. What that is divine presence, our essence, the source of our virtue. So bathe in it. In other words, cultivate virtue. And then, Sada Suche, Sacha Samai. Immerse yourself. Become like the Sacha. Become pure of mind. Har prab lekhe sada hajur, gur prasad reha bharpur, jahan jao tah vekha soe, gur bin data avarna koe. Now the Guru is explaining to us the impact of Gur wisdom on the mind. So first he says, the grace of the enlightened Gur, meaning its mercy, its compassion, its beneficence is always spilling over. Reha Bharpur. And it is only Gur bin Data Avarna Koi, only the enlightened Gur can dispense the wisdom that we need. And when that Gur wisdom dawns in the mind, then and only then that one gets the vision of the omnipresent herself. Har Prabhavik hai sada hajur. When? Gur Prasad Reha Bharpur. Wherever one turns to, then the presence of the self is experienced. Gur. Jahan jao, teh vekha soy. This is the impact of Gur wisdom. One begins to discern. You see, this is Vivek Buddhi that is being developed. Because you're looking at the world with a particular conditioning of the ego, which is a narrow sliver. When you develop discernment of Vivek Buddhi, your perception of the world changes. And with that, your life changes. Gur Sagar Pura Bhandar. So the Gur, the enlightened Gur, is an ocean of virtues. Gur Sagar. It's the perfect storehouse. Pura Bhandar. And what does it store? Uttam Ratan Jawahar Apar. Unlimited jewels and gems. Not to be taken literally. Jewels and gems refers to essences and quintessences within. Our essence, our talents, our skills, our potentiality. So it is a storehouse. It's an ocean of potentiality. What we make of it is up to us. And in order for us to engage with it or to bathe in it, we require good wisdom, the knowledge of the enlightener, because the enlightener has already had that experience. And again, the Guru emphasizes that the enlightened Guru is always present and available. Guru Prasadi Devanhar. He's a giver. It's always there. And says Nanak, the giver is also merciful, bestows its mercy. So you see here the line between the Guru enlightener and the Har self is a very fine one. In fact, there is no line at all. It is just a continuum, because our experience of the Har self is through its knowledge, through its wisdom. It's not some entity, a physical entity that we are going to meet. We are going to meet the Har self, the creator, through knowledge, because it is knowledge that the creator has scattered through the universe. It has woven its own knowledge in the fabric of the universe, and we are of the universe. So therefore, that knowledge resides within us. Amritsar. That is where we have to go. On that note, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.